Hi, I'm Michelle Ruiz, and I want to talk to you a minute about assessing inequity in organizations. So you may be hearing this terminology a lot in the workplace vernacular and in content geared to company leaders, and that is risks associated with inequity. And a lot of the most recent litigation that organizations are facing, more often than not, have to do with discrimination as it pertains to inequity. And so it is becoming more imperative for organizations to really understand if there are equity barriers and blockers happening in the organization, and for whom, most importantly, to mitigate the risk of litigation, but also to achieve overarching diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility objectives, as well as it pertains to recruitment priorities and retention priorities. So when we hear the term equity or equity audits, more often than not, we immediately jump to assessing pay inequity. And that's a legitimate risk for a lot of organizations. You've probably seen headlines here and there about organizations facing class action lawsuits as it pertains to, in particular, you're seeing gender inequity pay issues as an example. But inequity actually happens in other stages. It's not just pay inequity. And it can happen at pivotal points during an employee's life cycle in a company. So for example, from hiring to performance reviews, to promotions, even discipline, in addition to, of course, as we just mentioned, pay. And so when we're talking about the importance of assessing, doing an equity audit, as we look at it here at BiasSync, what we're looking at is deploying our proprietary 8 Touchstone equity barriers diagnostics tool, which actually assesses if there is inequity occurring at these pivotal points. And when I talk to you about pivotal points, I'm talking about recruitment, hiring, compensation, professional development, opportunities as it pertains to that, performance evaluation, promotion, retention, and even identity equity. And then what we do is not only do we assess if there is inequity occurring at any of those stages, but also if there is, for whom? Because sometimes the data will reveal that certain types of employees and organizations are experiencing more inequity than others, and that's really pivotal. So what we do here is, with our equity barriers diagnostics tool, which we developed with our people scientists, and it's proprietary to us, we are looking at inequity risks as it pertains to policies, practices, and procedures in the organization. This is different than what some organizations confuse with inclusiveness metrics. So inclusiveness metrics typically have to do with voice, belonging, contribution, people's value in the organization. Equity and equity audits are looking at policies, practices, and procedures. So we deploy a very specific tool to identify those inequities, and our clients are finding a lot of value because it highlights potential risk areas, and we also provide recommendations and assistance with solutions to address those challenges in order to reduce the risks of potential litigation, create more inclusive organizations, minimize challenges with recruitment, certainly with retention, and at the end of the day, creating more inclusive organizations that lead to better organizations overall.